Some of us completely reject the idea of reincarnation. And maybe that's just the general unknown of coming back after this life ends. However, I could see a different version of reincarnation, of being born again, of enlightenment, of awakening, or simply the different stages of our lives. In that case, I can definitely relate to the idea that I've reincarnated many times, or at the very least, several times. I am definitely not that young 4-year-old that I remember when my father was still alive, when I saw him butcher our rabbit, when I saw him crushing aspirins for our chicken who he treated like pets, or how I remember him killing a tarantula outside our home. Now, I'm definitely not that boy, and I haven't been that boy for a very long time. And I do feel like I shed that skin and went into another one of a older adolescent boy. And it was a completely different boy that I could clearly see translating the news of my father's death. And that wasn't the same little boy. That was 4. It's definitely not the same man that is now. And then there was this big hair boy that was about 12, or actually, that kid in elementary school and military school, or that completely different kid in public elementary school or public school, or that kid that went to a rough school in middle school. And I'm definitely not that young kid that moved to the States and didn't know the language. Oh, that was a different kid. And it was a different kid that lived in New York than the different kid that lived in Florida and that lived in Puerto Rico. That was, and the aggressive kid that got expelled out of several schools. That was a whole different human being, and I'm not so sure he was that human. It was. I think that one had rabies. That was a lost boy. Full of pain, full of grief, full of confusion, scared, mad, depressed, definitely not the young man that got married so very young the first time. Definitely. And that was a different young man that went through the torture of divorce and the agony of a different kind of loss in this world. The reinvention of yet another person was like the most painful lobster shedding the shell and growing a new one. Definitely not that the same one that got married the second time. Definitely not the one that ate the books to begin to reinvent himself. And then that was the germinating seed. It was extremely different, but it was still a germinating seed of the man that I am today. But definitely a different man. Maybe, they do say that every 7 years or so, not a single cell is the same within our bodies. Yeah. Maybe reincarnation, it's not such a esoteric, metaphysical mumbo jumbo. Maybe we are all very experienced in reincarnation, and we just don't see it that way. Nevertheless, whether we see it that way or not, whether we admit it or not, it could be the reality that we have been living with. Not in, because we've lived in many different realities within this realm. Maybe. It's interesting.